Hey, welcome to Parents Night Out. We're so glad you have joined us tonight. We're going to take some time and introduce ourselves, and then we're going to do an overview of what to expect in the student ministries area. So first, my name's Ryan Tarman. I work with 5th and 6th grade. I was born and raised in Bloomington, Minnesota.
And I'm Colin Carroll, and I graduated from Edina High School in 2007.
Hey, my name is Heather Fleece, and I was born and bred in Owatonna, Minnesota, the youngest of 6 kids.
My name is Mike Hagerly, and I work with Senior High here. I was born and raised down by Rochester, Minnesota.
So my path to ministry is a little unconventional, you would say. I spent some time driving a truck for a mobile shredding company here in the Twin Cities. Just did day routes. I was home every night. And I took care of the things that people didn't want you to see. But the Lord got my heart after 14 years of volunteering in the junior high ministry and said, it's time to go to vocational ministry. And so in 2013, I went back to Crown College, and I got my undergrad from there. And then I went back and got my seminary degree from Bethel. And here I am. I've been a student ministry pastor for 5th and 6th grade for about 7 years now, and it's been super exciting.
And I had the chance to play football in college and was a part of Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and our team chaplain would take us to local youth groups to share our faith story and our testimony. And I fell in love with writing and storytelling and thought, okay, how can I use those passions maybe in some other, career path? And so I at first tried television news and liked a lot about it, but didn't have peace that was my calling in life. Then tried advertising, and all along I've loved writing and storytelling, but I knew from volunteering at Christ Presbyterian Church in Edina, where I grew up going, just volunteering with the high school ministry, that was really where I was most in love with what I was doing, and that was what I was most passionate about, was helping students to understand how much God loves them and that they're accepted unconditionally. And so a little over a year and a half ago, I decided to start applying for ministry roles, and was very fortunate to find this role at Wooddale Edina as the student ministry director, and I'm just really blessed to get to work with this team.
Well, my path to ministry started in a wonderful church down in Owatonna called Bethel Baptist Church. And it was a pretty conservative church. So as I was growing up, I never saw any women who were in leadership positions beyond Sunday school teachers or vacation Bible school. I wasn't upset about that. It just was the way that it was. When I was 4, my brother went off to Bethel College and then went on to the seminary and became a full-time pastor. And I remember being very excited for him, but never thinking that could be something that I would do someday. I started volunteering at Trout Lake Camp when I was in 9th grade. They put me in Sequoia Cabin with 14 11-year-old girls. I was only 15 years old. They were short on counselors. I was supposed to be a counselor in training, but they threw me in with those girls, and it was one of the best weeks of my life. And now looking back, I see that was the start, God fashioning my heart specifically for junior high students. But it wasn't until I arrived on the Bethel campus and met a woman named Sherry, who was the associate campus pastor at the time, that I began to understand that ministry is something that I could do. She took me under her wing, and she started to speak truth into my life. She started to identify my spiritual gifts of leadership and teaching and exhortation, and it just kind of rolled from there. I took a position at a small church plant where I was 19 years old, and I was overseeing 6th through 12th grade. I was responsible for all of them. It was nuts. And then 24 years ago, I came here to Wooddale as the junior high associate, transitioned to the junior high pastor just 2 years later, and the rest is history. I have my undergrad at Bethel in communication and my master's from the seminary, and I don't want to be doing anything else except for being a junior high pastor.
So God got really a hold of my heart when I was in college. I went to the University of Minnesota, and I was studying business, wanted to graduate and make lots of money. But throughout college, I started volunteering in the junior high ministry here at Wooddale. And my first year volunteering, I had a group of 20 7th grade guys, and I was the only leader. And it was just chaos, but I fell in love with junior high ministry. And so over the next few years, I went to seminary and I graduated and I went out to Colorado to be a middle school pastor for 3 years. And God called me back to Wooddale to be the senior high pastor. So it's just been cool to see God move throughout the years and be able to just see the impact that he's made in students' lives.
2 words that would describe me in 5th and 6th grade. I was kind of a chameleon. I was somebody who was friends with a lot of people. I didn't really have just one specific friend group. I just kind of hung out with a bunch of different people. The other thing that would describe me is involved. I was here all the time. With growing up here at Wooddale, this was home, and so I loved being here Wednesdays and Sundays.
2 words that described me were, one, when I was in 7th grade, I would say I was a goofball, and I don't know that much has changed since then. And I would also say I was expressive. And so I think that meant that I loved to act and perform, and I loved to do imitations. I grew up in a family of 7 kids. I'm the oldest, and so in order to compete for attention, you kind of had to be outgoing and a goofball. And so I think I can just understand the plight of 7th grade boys, probably especially, that it can be difficult for us to wrangle our emotions and wrangle our behavior sometimes. So I thankfully was raised in an environment where it just made me maybe a little bit extra patient.
I have the opportunity to minister to 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. I'll choose 9th grade. I would describe myself as a 9th grader as highly social and a leader. My teachers would often write in the comments of the report card, "Heather is a wonderful girl. I just wish she would talk less," or "has a hard time not talking." And I look back now, and those were 2 that definitely described me, and it's been fun to take those qualities and learn more about them and hone them a little bit more as I've grown up.
2 words that would describe me when I was in high school was nerdy jock. So I loved music. I was in band. I did choir. I loved those theater type things. But I was also very into athletics, so I played every sport I could. And so it was just balancing out those 2 worlds. And it's really fun to see students who embrace both sides of the spectrum, both athletics and also digging into school and being in the arts and those type of things.
Some current interests for me. I love country music. I have for a long time. And I've recently picked up fishing in the past couple years. And I love going out late at night and fishing till the wee hours of the morning and hopefully catching some big fish.
And my current interests are spending time with my family because I've got all those siblings and all those built-in friends, so love just spending time with them. My youngest sister's 14. She's a part of the student ministry at Edina, which is a blast. So love spending family time. I love reading, and I also love working out and running around Lake Calhoun or lifting weights, and yeah, that's what I enjoy.
I live in Eden Prairie with my husband, Chad, and we have 2 ridiculously large St. Bernards, Jingle Bell and Hadley. Collectively, they weigh 305 pounds. So anything to do with them is fantastic. I also picked up tennis a few years ago. It's a great way for me to work out my competitive nature. I play singles on Mondays and doubles on Thursdays. Chad and I love to watch any kind of sports. We love to watch movies, and I love to nap and drink Diet Coke.
So recently I have picked up shooting, so I love guns. I love going to the range, being able to shoot. It's a great way to release some frustration or just have a lot of fun. So additionally, I love Xbox too, so playing video games on Xbox. Those are a couple things that keep me busy.
So what do I love about 5th and 6th graders? I love that they are starting to make their faith their own. And they're not afraid to ask the really tough questions. That keeps me on my toes very often, but they love to ask the tough questions. And the one I get the most is, where are dinosaurs in the Bible?
Well, because I get to lead 5th through 12th graders at Edina, and I mentioned what I was like as a 7th grade boy, maybe I'll say what I appreciate most especially about the ninth grade girls that I've gotten to lead, is just how vulnerable they are and how willing they are to ask questions and how open they are to other people's questions. Because I think when we allow ourselves the freedom to ask questions and to dig deep and to be humble enough to recognize that we don't have all the answers, I think that's where we find the truth. So that's what I appreciate most about the high school girls.
There are so many things I love about my 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. I love their energy. I love that they're not too cool yet. I love that friends are becoming a big deal, and so socially they're excited to be together. But probably my favorite is their sense of humor, specifically 7th grade boys. So I had a 7th grade boy come up to me, one of his first weeks in junior high. His name was Nolan. He said, "Heather, how come girls don't wear watches?" And I was like, "I don't know, Nolan. Why not?" He goes, "Because there's a clock on the oven." Okay, so not only sense of humor, but maybe a little bit of a lack of discernment, since like he was telling that joke to his female pastor who was going to be in charge of him for the next 3 years. But I thought it was an absolute riot.
So college was a really formative time for me. It's a time where I made a lot of mistakes, and then I learned what it was like to actually follow Jesus. And so for senior high students, I love to see them progress through, and there's a lot that I wish I knew when I was in high school. And so being able to walk alongside them and kind of move into that next phase, what's it going to look like after high school is a really exciting thing for me. And senior highs are asking some really deep questions and really wrestling with their faith, and I love being able to walk alongside them through that.
Parents, now that you know a little bit about each of us, we would love to tell you a little bit more about our ministry. So T, take it away.
So your students are moving up into their next ministry level for the next couple years, and that's why you're here tonight. And one of the questions you might be asking is, why move up in June? Well, the truth is we know that there's a lot going on in the fall, and we don't want to add one more thing to that busy schedule of starting school or starting sporting events. And especially in this time, we think it's helpful to just kind of stretch it out. But another reason we like to do it is our attendance drops as people go enjoy their cabins, go enjoy Minnesota summers, since they only last for 8 weeks. And so we want to be able to get to know your students in a smaller setting than what we see in the fall. And so this gives us the opportunity to get to know your students more intimately than if we were to start in the fall. Colin?
We know from conversations with involved and caring and great spiritual foundation parents like you are, that you care a lot that your student is coming to a place where they're encouraged in their relationship with God, and where they are being fed biblical truth, and where they are being equipped to be able to handle the temptations and difficulties and insecurities and fears that come with being a 5th, 6th middle schooler, high schooler. We want to be a place where your child can find community and be encouraged by peers who also love Jesus and want to follow him more closely. But we also know that the reality is that as a student ministry, we are simply the vitamins in your child's spiritual diet, and that the real food, the real substance of their spiritual guidance and direction and formation in their lives is going to come actually at home, that you as parents are the spiritual food. And so our role, and what gets us excited, is coming alongside you as the parents and being your advocates and being the people in your students' lives who just want to be the people who are echoing the great values that you're already instilling in your kids. The reality is that for whatever reason, if I'm any example, when I was going through middle school and high school especially, I had great parents who were awesome spiritual mentors for me. They laid a great foundation for me. But I really, in a lot of ways, needed my youth pastors to come alongside them, because I was more inclined to listen to the perspective of my youth pastor probably more often than I was my parents at times. And maybe I was battling with my parents about various things, and so I needed that extra voice in my life to affirm what my parents were saying. And that's our commitment to you, is to be your advocate, to echo the great values that you're already instilling in your child. And so as we are advocates for you, we just ask that you would do the same for us and be advocates for us, because inevitably we hate it if this happens, but it's sort of inevitable that, maybe there's a situation where there's a misunderstanding at youth group, or maybe a child is acting in a way that perhaps is distracting to their peers who are really wanting to learn. Maybe the child comes home and shares with you that their perception was that we were angry or that we yelled, and that's our commitment to you, is to, anytime that it's necessary to discipline or to correct a child, that we're doing it in a loving way. But in those scenarios, we just ask that rather than giving us a call and saying, hey, my daughter Sophie heard that you yelled at her, why would you do that? That maybe the other way to handle that would be, hey, Colin, we heard from our 14-year-old daughter who maybe isn't maybe is hearing it in a way that wasn't in line with reality, or her perception was a little bit off. But can you kind of maybe help me understand what happened, just so that I can come alongside you as her youth pastor, and so that we can come to a mutual understanding. So that would be kind of an application level request from us, just as we are advocates for you, that you would be advocates for us.
That's spot on. Parents, we want to partner with you because this is a crazy time. Do you know that adolescence is a crazy time? There are so many changes, both biologically, chemically, hormonally, developmentally, that happen as your child moves from concrete to abstract thinking, as they move from being a child through their adolescence into being a young adult. And so we want you to know that we are with you, and we are doing everything that we can to have our ministries be developmentally appropriate for the age groups that we minister to. So you will notice that each ministry looks a little different, and that is intentional. I mean, really, we could have ministries set up every 3 months for a child, because that is how often so much change is happening. But the groupings that we have are on purpose, and they're going to feel a little different. When I helped to move my 9th graders out of the 7th through 9th grade ministry into the senior high, something I drill into them is this: it's not bad, it's just different. It's not bad, it's just different. Because oftentimes we get so used to one way that when we shift into a new way, we think, whoa, wait a second, what's going on? Our ministries are different on purpose according to the development of the child. So just a couple examples. Tarman does a lock-in with his students every fall, and they just love it. It is something distinctively different from what they would do in children's ministry, right? But it is a lock-in here at the church, and there is a portion of the night where they attempt to sleep on the church floor. Tarman doesn't sleep, of course, but the children sleep. Well, when they get to junior high, we have done a thing called the all-night blitz, which is a lock out. So we don't stay here in the church building. We are out of the church building, and we hop from place to place, a bowling alley to a roller rink to a movie theater, and we don't sleep, and we keep moving all night long. And we do that on purpose, because 5th and 6th graders wouldn't quite be ready for that yet, but as they move into 7th through 9th, they become more ready. So you'll start to notice that there are some differences, but we want to assure you that they are intentional. And if you ever have any questions as to why we choose to do what we do or how we do it, please ask us, because there is thought behind each decision that we make. And I promise all of us are approachable and we are reasonable, okay? Now, clearly, there is crazy stuff going on. Oh. Darn it! Remember how I told you earlier that I talked too much and I didn't pay attention as much as I should in class? Clearly, Micah was supposed to go next, but I jumped up and went ahead instead. So let me invite my former junior high associate and my friend Micah to take the stage like he was supposed to before I was. Mike, I'm so
going?
sorry.
Okay. It's all right.
Okay,
It's all right.
thank
A lot of
you,
grace.
thank
One of the questions a lot of us get is, why in the world would you want to work with the age groups that you work with? Why would you want to work with teenagers? And to be honest, we just love to see young people stepping up and sharing the gospel with their friends and at school and even at home. And so one of the things we've realized is that students are often more capable than they even give themselves credit for. And one of our jobs as student pastors is to draw that out. If you look throughout Scripture, God uses teenagers over and over and over again to carry forward his mission throughout Scripture. And so we want to just be people who speak truth in life and see different character traits and different strengths in students and draw those out and see how they can use those gifts to impart the gospel here, near, and far. And so throughout their student ministry experience, they're going to have things that are age specific and also just draw on their strengths and their motives and what they're passionate about.
Thank you, Micah. Well, this is all true of what it is that we do and how we want to partner with you and minister with you. But we fully acknowledge that this is a crazy time. Unprecedented is the word that's been thrown around so often. And so we want to let you know what our intention and our hope is as we continue to minister during this COVID experience. So we know that our face-to-face time is limited, that's for sure. Our hope is that it will continue to open up, but we also understand that some of you as families wouldn't be comfortable with that. So what we've been doing for the last couple of months is we have been gathering together on Wednesday nights, and it's a combined effort. It's all 5th through 12th grade, all campuses, and we have been celebrating with a program on YouTube Premiere that we all engage with together, and all of the pastors that you see are involved with each of those programs. And then afterward, we break off into our separate Zoom meetings so that we can have age-appropriate, distinctively different conversations with students. It's our hope to continue that in some form throughout the summer, and so we can look forward to that. But you'll also see us doing ministry outside of that YouTube and Zoom format, and we just want to give you a couple examples of that. So, Colin?
Yeah. Well, I mean, given where your students live, and especially as they get into middle school and later in high school, it's just so important to be engaging, for me, to be engaging with the students on social media, but then also just reaching out to them, either students, parents, volunteers, and just keeping in touch with all those people who are so critical to our ministry, and seeing how they're doing and getting prayer requests and just having that one-on-one connection opportunity. And then for those families who feel comfortable with it, I'd love to get together with students or come over and say hi in a safe, responsible way. Just the other day, I got to go fishing with a couple of students. So it's all dependent on the family's comfort level, but yes, I would love to continue engaging one-on-one in person or whatever capacity your family feels comfortable.
Yeah, for our high schoolers, throughout the summer, we just want to hang out with you. So our life group leaders are going to be contacting you. I'll be contacting you just to get those touch points throughout the summer. And I realize that some of you might not be comfortable leaving your house or being around other people, and that's totally cool too. We'll still have the online digital content as well.
Well, with 5th and 6th graders during this time, one of my favorite things has been using a lot of the apps that are out there, FaceTime, House Party, and all of that. What I used to think was just from the Jetsons has now become reality. And if you have never FaceTime with a group of 8 5th and 6th graders, you have not lived. You don't have to do anything. You just have to sit back and watch. And it's been a really fun time to do that. And that's a lot of how I connect right now with the students. I'm hoping to be able to do in-person things as things open up, but that's been the biggest thing so far.
Yeah, sweet. One of the fun things that we've been doing in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade ministry is something called strength training. We were just wanting to do something where there was a little bit more of a back and forth. And so every Tuesday and Friday, at least through the end of May, but we're considering extending it through the rest of the summer, Yolanda Hunter, who is a physical trainer, she's literally a personal trainer, and I do strength training with students via Zoom. So it's 20 minutes of physical strength training and then 10 minutes of strength training for the soul. And it's just been so fun to see kids consistently logging on to that Zoom activity. And at the end, we have dialogue back and forth. And it's just so good to know that there's a connection, but there's also a strengthening that's happening. So just so you know, we are continuing to have ideas and to innovate, and we will do that all throughout the summer because we care about you, we care about your families, and we care about these students. We acknowledge that it's different, but we are committed to moving them up in a really fun way. And that's what we want to talk about next in our individual Zoom meetings. So you should have received a Zoom link for the specific ministry to which your child is moving into. But if not, there'll be a slide at the end of our time that will give you a cell phone number. Please text the proper ministry coordinator and we will get you a Zoom link as quick as we can. If you are a parent who's got 2 children moving into new ministries, woo! Good for you. Special prayer session for you later on tonight. But if there are 2 of you that are watching and you can split, that would be ideal. Otherwise, I would suggest you just entering the Zoom that is most new to you as far as ministry goes. So parents, we are so grateful that you've chosen to take time with us tonight and enjoy your Zoom connection with your new pastor.